deal over the line.
With British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on speakerphone, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom on Thursday. It's the first such agreement since Trump sparked a global trade war with a barrage of tariffs on other nations.
With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade.
The deal leaves in place a 10% tariff on goods imported from the UK, while Britain agreed to lower its tariffs to 1.8% from 5.1% and provide greater access to U.S. goods.
This is a really fantastic, historic day in which we can announce this deal between our two great countries, and I think it's a real tribute to the history that we have of working so closely together.
The deal will reduce U.S. tariffs on British auto imports to 10% from the current 27.5%, according to a UK statement. U.S. tariffs on imports from the struggling UK steel industry will fall to 0 from 25%, while British tariffs on U.S. ethanol will fall to 0 from 19%. The United States has been under pressure to strike deals to de-escalate its tariff war, after Trump's often chaotic policymaking upended global trade with friends and foe alike, threatening to stoke inflation and start a recession.
When Pope Leo XIV emerged on St. Peter's balcony for the first time as Pope, he offered three big important clues about what kind of papacy he might have. The first was the choice of name. The last Pope Leo was the Pope who died in the early 20th century. He was known as the Pope of the Workers. He was really concerned about issues of social justice and started a tradition called Catholic social teaching. He spoke up for fair treatment of workers, fair pay, and the right to join unions. We might expect that Pope Leo will offer similar messages on social justice issues and be firmly in pro-workers and pro-labor movement. A second hint that Pope Leo offered was his choice of language and his choice of words. Leo is the first Pope from the United States of America. He did not speak English. He spoke in Italian, the language of the papacy, and the language of Rome. He also briefly spoke in Spanish to address his former diocese in Peru. The third major clue was the outfit that Pope Leo decided to wear. Some people will remember in 2013 when Pope Francis first emerged on the balcony, he didn't wear any of the traditional trappings of the papacy. He only wore his white cassock. Pope Leo changed a bit. He put back on a red cape over the white cassock. He's his own man. He will be his own pope, and he will decide kind of who he wants to be and what kind of pope he wants to be.
Shelling from Pakistan damaged several religious sites and homes in Indian Kashmir near the Pakistani border on the second day of major clashes between the nuclear-armed neighbours on Thursday. Residents here are calling for a ceasefire after a statement released by the Indian government said 16 lives were lost in the cross-border fire. It comes as Pakistan said it shot down 25 drones from India in its airspace on Thursday. India said it neutralized Pakistan's attempts to strike military targets with drones and missiles. The fighting has spread a day after India said it hit terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan in the early hours of Wednesday. This footage, posted by the Indian Army on X, whose date and location was unable to be verified by Reuters, is said to show terrorist camps being destroyed in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The escalation has been sparked 2 weeks after India accused Pakistan of involvement in an attack on Indian Kashmir in which 26 people, mostly Hindu tourists, were killed. Islamabad had denied the accusation and vowed to retaliate to missile strikes. Pakistan says at least 31 of its civilians were killed and dozens wounded in Wednesday's strikes and in cross-border shelling across the frontier in Kashmir. Pakistan's information minister told Parliament Pakistani forces had killed 40 to 50 Indian soldiers on the de facto border and blown Indian military installations. On Thursday, Indian government ministers in New Delhi said the strikes on Pakistan had killed more than 100 terrorists and that the count was still ongoing, government sources said. Reuters could not independently verify claims of both countries. Both governments have pledged to respond if one attacks the other. However, ministers from both sides have said they don't intend to escalate the situation or are ready to de-escalate. The US, China and Russia have urged both sides to show restraint in the interests of peace and stability and have offered support. The relationship has been fraught with tension since India and Pakistan gained independence from colonial Britain in 1947. The countries have fought 3 wars, 2 of them over Kashmir, and clashed countless times.
NVIDIA reportedly plans to release a downgraded version of its H20 artificial intelligence chip for China in the next 2 months. 3 sources told Reuters that the move follows US export restrictions on the original model, and that the US chipmaker had notified major Chinese customers, telling them that it aims to release the modified chip in July. The downgraded H20 represents NVIDIA's latest attempt to maintain its presence in one of its most crucial markets, despite Washington's expanding efforts to restrict China's access to advanced semiconductor technology. The H20 had been NVIDIA's most powerful AI chip cleared for Chinese sales, but it was effectively blocked from the market last month. US officials informed the company that the product would require an export license. One source said NVIDIA has formulated new technical thresholds which will guide the development of the modified designs, adding that the specifications will result in significant downgrades from the original H20. NVIDIA declined to comment, and the US Commerce Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. China accounted for $17 billion in revenue, or 13% of NVIDIA's total sales, over the fiscal year ending in January.
The Bank of England cut its main interest rate on Thursday. It came down by a quarter point to 4.25%. That was despite a surprise 3-way split among policymakers as US tariffs hit global economic growth. The bank's rate setters voted 5-4 in favour of the decision. 2 members of the committee voted for a bigger cut, while others wanted to keep rates on hold. George Godber is a fund manager at Polar Capital.
The cut is not a surprise. That was fully priced in market. What has been a surprise is that 2 members voted to hold rates. So we've got 2 voting for 50 basis points cuts, the rest voting for this 25 bips. So it looks like a very, very confusing message. But I think the main thing is at the moment the Bank of England is on a trajectory for gentle cutting. That's likely to change later in the year, but at the moment that's really the message that the market will take from this.
Bank Governor Andrew Bailey said the central bank must stick to a gradual and careful approach to rate cuts.
As the past few weeks demonstrate, the global economic environment remains an uncertain one. Interest rates are not on autopilot. They cannot be.
Thursday's decision is the central bank's first since President Donald Trump announced wide-ranging tariffs in early April. It caused temporary market turmoil and led the International Monetary Fund to cut its growth forecasts for most major economies, including Britain. The Bank of England said it thought tariff increases by the US and other countries would weigh somewhat on British economic growth. It further argued it would push down on inflation, but said the outlook is unclear.
Believe in this stuff.
Bill Gates pledged on Thursday to give away $200 billion via his charitable foundation by 2045, speeding up his plans to divest almost all of his fortune. The announcement follows moves by governments, including the Trump administration, to dramatically slash international aid budgets used to prevent deadly disease and famine.
The decision to do this is one that I've been thinking about for a few years and talking about with the foundation board. So it's actually not triggered by the fact we're here in this emergency situation.
The 69-year-old billionaire co-founder of Microsoft said he would close the foundation on December 31st, 2045, years earlier than previously planned. He said he believed the money would help eradicate diseases like polio and malaria, end preventable deaths among women and children, and reduce global poverty.
I think over the next 20 years, this amazing organization with amazing partnerships, I want to maximize what they can do.
He has also lashed out at Elon Musk, who oversees the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, which has overseen the cuts to US AID. In an interview with the Financial Times, Gates said, quote, "The picture of the world's richest man killing the world's poorest children is not a pretty one." Speaking to Reuters, Gates warned of a stark reversal to decades of progress in reducing mortality due to funding cuts.
It could be 4 years, 6 years, where we're having funding cuts from a number of countries, including the US, and the number of deaths will start going up for the first time. They went down from around 10 million to less than 5 million. And now, it's going to be millions of more deaths because of the resources.
He has spoken to Trump several times in recent months, and twice since the president took office on January 20th, on the importance of continued investment in global health, he told Reuters. Gates made the announcement on the foundation's 25th anniversary. He set up the organization with his then-wife Melinda French Gates in 2000. They were later joined by billionaire investor Warren Buffett. Gates said that despite the foundation's deep pockets, progress would not be possible without government support.
If you zoom out, though, and look at the next 20 years, and the fact that I think governments will come back to caring about children surviving, and that we have a pipeline of innovation, and that my fellow philanthropists, I think, will be giving more to these
British
causes.
Airways owner IAG almost tripled its first quarter operating profit, beating expectations, with these buoyant results owing to resilient demand. It said on Friday that it would also maintain its outlook for 2025. European airlines in general have produced some strong quarterly results. That's despite global economic uncertainty, stoked by US President Donald Trump's trade tariff policies. IAG's concern over an economic downturn cast a shadow over prospects for transatlantic routes, particularly because these journeys have helped drive its strong results in recent years. But the company's Q1 statement said that this part of the business remains a, quote, major area of strength. It added that it's seeing some softness in economy bookings from the US, but that's being offset by strength in premium bookings. IAG reported operating earnings of over $222 million for the 3 months to March the 31st, against around $77.5 million a year earlier. The company's shares bucked the wider sector trend by performing well last year, with its transatlantic advantage helping to bolster investor confidence. And its shares were up around 1.5% in early
Shares
trade.
of Warner Brothers Discovery jumped as much as 9% Thursday morning after CNBC reported the media giant is moving toward a potential breakup. Shares had fallen earlier in the session after the company posted revenue that missed forecasts and a wider than expected loss due to a sluggish box office performance and ongoing declines in cable TV. But shares rebounded on the news of a potential spin-off. Warner Brothers Discovery did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment on the CNBC report, which cited unnamed sources. The media giant would follow in the footsteps of Comcast, which is spinning off most of its cable assets, including CNBC and MSNBC, into a new company called Versant to position itself for growth in the streaming era. Warner Brothers Discovery laid the groundwork for a possible sale or spin-off of its declining cable TV assets in December by announcing a separation from its streaming and studio operations. It reported results under the new structure for the first time on Thursday. Analysts have long speculated about a breakup of WBD, whose assets include CNN, HBO, and the coveted Warner Brothers Studio. Bank of America research analyst Jessica Reif Ehrlich said last year that WBD's cable television assets are a very logical partner for Comcast's new spin-off company. Like others in the media business, Warner Brothers Discovery is losing thousands of cable TV subscribers each year, putting pressure on the company to consistently produce hit content and boost profitability in its streaming business. WBD did add 5.3 million streaming subscribers in the quarter, compared with 3.1 million estimated by analysts, according to Visible Alpha, taking its total to 122.3 million. The quarter featured strong content, including the third season of HBO's The White Lotus.